Hey, hey, welcome to the Shammer
Oh,
Show. How's it
hey,
going,
Tori.
everybody? Welcome to today's Lunch and Learn. We've got a great topic today. Y'all who have been joining us for the past couple of weeks, we'll get started with our milestones, but I'm going to give it one other minute just to let people come in and get settled. Amber, I got to figure out this music. I'm getting complaints that we don't have a DJ. Okay. So, hi, Mari. So some of the faces, I love being able to see them. Y'all know I love videos on, but people are probably like driving and how's everybody doing with this rain? This rain is a shit show, especially because we live in California. No one knows how to operate when it rains. Ooh, Tori, I see you in the car. I hope you are staying safe in that rain.
Hey, Tori. Ah, LaQuisha. Oh, wow. I see so many people.
Isn't it like awesome to see such familiar faces?
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
Uncle Dave.
Okay. Welcome to today's Lunch and Learn. We call it the Shamber Shit Show. I'm Dr. Sharon Elephant. I am the CEO of the Nonprofit Plug. We have Amber Anthony. She is the CEO of Solid Solutions. Together, we are Shamber, the Shit Show. So today's topic is going to be awesome. We're going to be talking about transitional housing. And of course, in Los Angeles, when we get into talking about transitional housing and what that means and what we're doing, we definitely had to bring on one of the industry leaders in the area. I can't even do this woman justice on the introduction. Brittany Frazier, the founder and CEO of Noah's Foundation. We've got her on today. She is what I call the transitional housing expert. I'm going to have her get into her story and the properties and all those details. And I have a list of questions for you, Bree. But before we get in our normal process, what do we have for accomplishments, wins, milestones, anything real cool to share with the group today? I know there is, and I'm looking for him, Maurice and Erica. I know there's something you told me you
I'm
want.
right here.
Okay, I knew it. Okay, go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, we do have two wins within the last few weeks. We did our Give Butter campaign, and it's been going very well. Within the month, I believe we raised around 1,300, reaching out to
Oh,
family, friends, whoever's on our cell phone list. They're getting the message regardless, so that's been working pretty well. And then our biggest one is we just got approved for a micro grant for amount of 2,000. So that's definitely grateful. And yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, I'm super proud of you guys. When I talk about clients that listen to Amber and I, Maurice and Erica Garcia, who are the founders of Youth Waves Beyond Watts, they listen to every damn thing we say. And now they're raising money. So I'm really
yeah.
proud of you guys, Maurice. I don't see Erica on here. So if she's with
I think
you, you
she's
better give her a
having
hug.
issues logging
Okay.
on, but
That's okay.
she just texted me. I think she's still in the waiting room.
I know you'll give her a kiss and a hug for me. I'm really proud of you
Will
guys.
do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. Alex, would you like to share a win from yesterday? The two grants.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Will it get weird? Reverb? Okay. I'll
Just
go
go. Just
over there.
go. Just go.
No, okay. Okay, you can hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So someone got the second year of funding through Weingart Foundation for 200K. So that was exciting. And then we also had someone win 20,000 in LA EOG funds recently. And then am I missing something else?
No, those are the two ones. That's
So much.
awesome. Yeah. It's been a really fantastic month for grant awards. So we're really proud of Nonprofit Plug clients and just other individuals that we've been connecting with. Miss Mari is the brand new nonprofit founder. So it's great for you to join us today too. We're excited to have you join us. So congratulations to you too for getting started on your mission
Thank,
and passion.
thank you.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
really grateful to being here and just look forward to it.
Yeah, welcome. Well, today will be an interesting one too, because I'll be kind of curious to see what sort of stuff that you eventually run into. So, okay, let's get started because this hour is going to go by fast. as a lot of you new faces, so I won't do it fast AF. So we will get going. Those of you who see me all the time know I drop the F-bomb all the time. I get really excited. So without further ado, I am so excited to introduce everyone to Miss Brittany Frazier. Again, she is the CEO and founder of Nose Foundation. So Bree, I'm going to hand the floor off to you. First thing I would love for you to do, introduce yourself, the beautiful soul, one of my favorite humans in the whole world. Introduce yourself, tell us who you are, how you got into transitional housing, and then I'm going to slam you with questions.
Oh, slam. Yikes.
Yeah, I'm going to slam you with them.
Gotcha. Hey guys, my name is Bree. My real name is actually Brittany, but I always tell people that Brittany is a version of me you wouldn't have wanted to meet, so I go by Bree.
I still like that version, but we'll go on to that later.
We're not going to share that version on Zoom. But yeah, so I was homeless, sleeping in my car. I was also 6 months pregnant. And I was just kind of like figuring out life, didn't really know what I was going to do. And I had enrolled in school. I'm giving you guys a very short version, just because of the timing. But I enrolled in El Camino, and I want to tell you guys that being on a county is like one of the best things that ever happened to me. The county and its benefits is great when you are using it for what it's designed for and not abusing it. So as someone that was a recipient of getting CalFresh and CalWorks, I enrolled in school. Schooling was free for me. And because I was enrolled in CalWorks, I got EOP&S and another program called the CARE program that connected me to like internships. They paid 60% of my earnings. They gave me gas cards, and they just did all these amazing things for me. And I started working for a homeless service provider whose name I won't say. And I just saw how broken the system was and how we would like often run out of money in our budget. And I was connecting with all these like landlords and other transitional housing programs. And I knew that eventually the way that I spoke up and advocated for my clients, that my time there was going to be very limited. So I made sure that I started sending emails to myself, saving all my resources. And I did just that. In the middle of COVID, I was standing in Starbucks, waiting for my coffee, and Starbucks was like really backed up this day. And I met this Korean guy, and we were just having small talk. And, he asked me what I did. I told him what I did. And, we were just having general conversation, and he got his coffee first. And then he said, here's my card. I'm actually an investor. And I have several properties in South LA. So I gave him a call. We met. He said, if you have $26,000, this house is yours. And from experiencing homelessness, I'm like super frugal with my money. And I did have $26,000 at that time. So I gave it to him. No contract, nothing in writing, very stupidly, not going to encourage anybody to ever do that. But it did work out for me. And from there, I welcomed 12 moms, and it just kept growing after that. I saw that there was a need for housing. And everyone told me that during COVID, it was very risky, and that was actually the best time to do it. So from there, we just grew, and now we serve women and children, victims of domestic violence, former foster youth. And one of the things that I pride myself on is that we keep families together. So while most transitional housing will take women and children, and then other facilities may take only men, we have homes where we can take mom, dad, and children, because you thrive better, and you thrive more, I should say, when you're able to stay with your support system and not split them up. So we're able to service everyone except animals.
I'm trying to get her to change that. I've tried to create a dog advocacy program at Nose Foundation. We haven't quite got there yet, but one of these days we're going to get there.
Somebody on this call is going to start it, and we're going to be right there to support.
Okay, Bree, first question I have for you, because a lot of people sort of don't fully understand what transitional housing actually is and the other types of housing. So can you kind of go over the key components and define transitional housing, and how does that differ from other forms of temporary and permanent housing solutions? And I'm sure I'm missing some other categories too.
Sure. So transitional housing obviously has the word transition in it, but the word transitional is specifically defined for homeless individuals. So with transitional housing, housing itself is just the umbrella. So under housing, you can have permanent housing, bridge housing, interim housing. I'll tell you guys what those all are too. But with that being said, the common denominator in all of those is homelessness. Now, the population that you serve in that can be very different. Like I started with women and children. Someone else may want to start with former foster youth. You may have a passion for reentry in servicing individuals that were formerly incarcerated. So whichever your niche is, or whatever population that you feel like you connect better with, doesn't make a difference. If the common denominator in those populations is they are experiencing homelessness or they are having a hard time stabilizing their lives, they are under transitional housing. So with transitional housing, the max that I've seen is you are staying somewhere where you're living in an environment that's not permanent. So you can be there for up to 24 months. That's what separates permanent housing. I personally hate the word permanent housing, but it is a thing that exists because with permanent housing, it's the idea that you've experienced homelessness and you have stabilized your life and now you're okay. And I think that people forget that when that happens, that you may still need support. So I use the word supportive housing, which is another site that Noah's Foundation is going to open, where it's like, yeah, you can live here, you are paying rent. You do have a lease in the typical like landlord tenant relationship. However, if you need additional resources or you still need help budgeting and saving, or, you know, we're all one paycheck away from homelessness, we're still able to bridge the gap and make sure that those individuals don't go back into homelessness. Then you have interim and bridge housing, which is usually like subsidized. So if you are familiar with housing, in Los Angeles, you guys have probably heard of LASA. A lot of programming that LASA funds is for bridge and interim housing, rapid rehousing that provides different resources and may also connect you to like a voucher. And then we have low income housing. Low income housing is usually a limit at how much you can make. It can say you can't go over 30,000. And if you go over 30,000, you can't be a family size more than 1 or 2, or you're a family of 4, you can't make more than much. That's low income housing. Now, where people get it twisted with low income housing is affordable housing. Affordable housing is just a percentage of what you make, and sometimes it doesn't really make a difference of what you make. I do believe that there was some bill that passed in LA stating that like all landlords, if you have a specific amount of units, you have to designate some of those units for affordable housing.
Okay, awesome. That is quite the overview. So before I go on to my next question, does anyone have, and Ms. Brown, I'll get into your question too, but does anybody have questions on the different types of categories of housing before we move on to the next question? And if you guys have questions, put them in the chat box and we'll get to them also. We'll probably answer the chat box questions at the end. Anybody have questions on those categories of types of housing? Okay. My next question for you, Bree, can you share some examples of some of the success stories and the positive outcomes resulting from individuals and families transitioning through your housing properties?
Sure. I think one of my favorite things with Noah's Foundation is that while there are other programs that give you a time limit, we don't. You know, I've seen some people that are able to stabilize their lives and leave homelessness and get a job and, you know, build their finances and stuff, and they only need like 2 or 3 months. And then I've seen some people that need like 2 years. I just had a family of 8 that could not get accepted into any shelter because their family size was too big. There's mom, there's dad. When I met mom, she was pregnant, and then they had 5 babies. So with that being said, they couldn't get into any shelter, and I was kind of like their last resort. Well, happy to report that they just went into permanent housing, but I've also had them since my very first opening in 2019, 2020. As you can see, that's a very long time, but the great thing about that is during the time that I had them, they were able to rebuild their credit. Dad had to get some things expunged and removed off his record. They were also fighting an eviction and making sure that it didn't go on their credit report. And we all know when you get an eviction in LA or anywhere at this point, you're kind of doomed, and it makes it very difficult for you to rent, regardless of what type of city or county services you're receiving. Mom became employed after she had her baby. We worked on a budget and were able to like stabilize their finances. And then we covered their move-in when they were able to find their own place. We were able to cover their move-in with rental assistance for the first month and their security deposit. And as you can imagine, buying furniture for 8 children is a lot. So we purchased the necessities that they needed for that too. So that is one success story. And then I'm also thinking about how many former foster youth that we take in. I have several success stories for that, so I won't give you all of them. But I just know that although I experienced homelessness as a pregnant mom at 26, I can say as a Black mom, right, one of the most it's part of generational, I don't want to say curse, it's generational trauma, where sometimes Black families kick their children out, and it sets us up for failure. So with that being said, I had been without an anchor and just figuring out my life since I was almost, 14, 16. I graduated from Crenshaw High School when I was 16, very young age. And I was on the streets, figuring it out, didn't really know what I was going to do. And when my grandmother died, I didn't make it any better. So with that, I have a very soft spot for foster youth, because that transition from being a youth into adulthood is the hardest transition of your life. So being a support system for them, and like, our youth are kicking ass right now. Like, I've had more youth go into their own apartments and stuff, and gain mentees and want to become mentors and stuff. So I think all of that in itself, between housing individuals that are 18 to 24, is like the greatest thing right now.
That's so cool. Those are exciting stories to hear about, because they're so young and you can still like have a major impact on their life. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
and then you get to watch them kind of grow up.
Absolutely. And I love when they're also part of the reentry community. So like having youth that were like formerly incarcerated. I had a 23-year-old gentleman who went in when he was 12, and he was supposed to do life. Can you imagine that you're supposed to do life in prison? And whatever law had passed, he was able to get out of prison, and he's done like a 360 with his life. And just also, so if you're interested in reentry, they're one of my favorites. Because if they've been in prison, or if they either come with a probation officer, a parole officer, or even just their mindset, if they don't come with either, they don't want to go back to jail. They follow the rules, they clean up after themselves, and they're just like so on fire for being like a dignified citizen of the community.
I love that. That's actually a really good tip for folks that are wanting to get into that. We're going to get into people who want to get into transitional housing. So this is more of like a feelings kind of question before we really get into like the intricacies of having transitional housing.
Mhm.
But how does transitional housing contribute to breaking the cycle of homelessness, instead of like, keeping people in homelessness? How does it contribute to ending homelessness, and what supportive services are typically offered through transitional housing?
Oh, that's a tricky question. I'll start with the second question, because the first question is definitely going to be based all on feelings. So
Yeah.
take it or leave it. But with the second question, I would say supportive services that are offered in transitional housing. Of course, when you're just starting off and you don't have funding and you don't have grants and you don't have money, focus on what you can do. My biggest pet peeve, and I apply this in everything in my life, is do not overpromise and then you underdeliver. These are people's lives that you have in your hands. So when they come to you, many of them are very broken, very saddened. Their spirits are shattered. You might have been the last resort. They're just kind of figuring out like what they want to do. The supportive services that you offer should be realistic expectations that you can help and assist with. And I think the best way to offer those supportive services is being realistic with who's responsible for what. I do what I like to call a housing stability plan with my clients, where we outline their goals, and they can tell me, I want to get a driver's license, I want to go back to school, I want to learn how to count my money. I don't know. No goal is too big or too small. And on that sheet, I write down who's responsible for it. And that's how you kind of put the ball in their court. Because if you are telling me that you want to learn how to drive a motorcycle, I don't know anything about that. So now we know I'm not responsible for that. But what I can be responsible for is maybe finding you a referral or linking you to someone who does know that. And I plant the seed. But in order for this to happen, it's the client's responsibility to make it grow. So making sure that you have that in writing. So with that being said, the supportive services can literally be anything that you want to do. Do you want to offer employment assistance? Do you want to offer financial literacy? Do you want to be geared more towards like educational purposes and vocational training? We do have a few individuals that, as long as they're in school, they can stay with me rent-free. That's mostly for youth. But it's case by case. So supportive services looks different all the way around. It's really just what your passion is and what you want to help with. And also know that building relationships with people in the community is like top key, because if you can't do it, meet a partner or somebody in the community that can do it. Like I use PV jobs, although I have a heart for individuals that were formerly incarcerated. don't know shit about how to help them. I just know that I care about them, and I love that, they're willing to like turn their lives around and, do all these great things in the community. So I refer them to PV Jobs, who gets them union jobs, apprenticeships, covers all their fees. All I do is buy work boots. So, supportive services looks like whatever you want it to look like. You can get as creative as you want to with that. As far as transitional housing contributing to homelessness, I'm proud of the work that Noah's Foundation is doing, but I don't even think we're at the peak of how bad homelessness is going to get. And I want you guys to know that my opinion is very biased. And if you think it's bad now, like, wait until you see the end of 2024. With inflation, the cost of living, like low paying jobs, like it's about to get really bad. Like if you've ever thought about starting transitional housing or getting into housing in some type of capacity, now is the time to get on the bandwagon, because the funding for this stuff is really going to be bizarre, and homelessness is going to keep increasing. So I hate to say it, it's like, yes, I'm doing a good thing and I'm doing the work. I can't tell you how much I feel like I'm contributing to ending homelessness. I would say it's going to take a lot more than housing to do that. Like we're going to have to address.
You've helped in homelessness for over 500 families. So that's a pretty massive impact. Just so everybody on here knows, like within the past couple of years, she has literally ended homelessness for families, over 500 of them. Okay, sorry.
That
Go ahead.
sounds so good to say, actually. It sounds really good to hear.
That's a major accomplishment.
Thank you so much. And it really is. But then when I seen the loss account for the homeless count this year, and to see that homelessness has like jumped up almost nearly 60%, that was crazy. Imagine of all those 500 families I helped that I can no longer get in contact with, what if they're back on the streets now? Because trying to survive in LA is just too hard, and you just don't know. So yeah, that's a tricky one. I think I'll end it with that because I don't want to sound negative, but
yeah. But I think where the positive side of that though, is that there cannot be too many nonprofits and resources out there serving the homeless community. So this is basically an invitation to everyone to join the movement, to help in homelessness, and to be additional service providers to support nonprofits like yours to expand to more families.
Agreed.
I'm going to totally just give you a round one here, but I know you're going to be answered because I'm going to skip one of my questions that I have for you, because Winner beat me to it and put it in the chat. And since Winner Watts is one of my favorite people because he's a winner, I want to go with his questions because they're perfect. And this is really, truly the essence of what people want to know. So
I see him.
Yeah. So, and you can answer those questions in any order, but
Yeah.
I think the group is really more so interested
That's the number one question I get asked.
Yeah. And people want to start transitional housing. So there's two parts that I want you to answer. Answer all of Winner's questions, but I also want people to get a reality check on transitional housing. Everybody comes to me and goes, I want to do transitional housing because it's lucrative as fuck. And I want to say, fuck you. That's my response.
I wish I had pictures.
And so I want you to give a reality check to everybody on the positives. And then I want people to understand what they're getting themselves into.
Okay, perfect. So how to get started with foster youth homes. With foster youth homes, tricky. The county has what they call a THP program. Don't ask me the acronym for that. I just know it's called THP. You can literally look it up. And for the county's THP program, it gives you a step-by-step of what you need. So really, you don't need any coaching in that. You can do it. It's on the list. You just fill out the qualifications and then you bid, and then it's as simple as that. That's if you want to get county funding to do a THP program. A THP program starts at the age of 16, which means you would still have minors. So when I hear people say foster youth homes, that's what I'm imagining. Now it's that the language you use when you said foster youth homes reminded me of the THP program. That's why I'm answering that way. If you want to do a transitional home, right? Because the language is different. You want to do a transitional home and you want to house foster youth, then that's more focused on 18 to 24, and you can do that anyway. Which brings me to the next question. I'll skip the second one and go back to it. What's the best option for getting the crib? Do you lease it or do you buy it? Both are great. In my experience, and you guys do not have to do this, I'm just saying my experience, keep in mind, whether it's a house, a car, a pillow, a sheet, a cookie, nobody takes care of your stuff when you buy it how you would. So keep that in mind. And just know that when you buy something and you're letting someone else use it and you're expecting them to take care of it the same way, it's a liability. It doesn't matter what it is. So if you are okay with doing that, or if you want to do that, then by all means, go for it. I personally like the leasing option because all of the responsibility of maintaining the home, getting licensing, if the house gets caught on fire, which has happened to me, none of that is my responsibility. I'm insured. Insurance takes care of it. The owner needs to figure it out. It's out of my hands. I did my part. So, which brings me to also, does the government fund you solely, or is everything your own money? I started my first home with my savings that I depleted. Never saw it again. Sorry, that sounds crazy to say. Never saw it again. But what I can say is with the first home, I did make enough money to open the second home. And then with the second home, I made enough money to open the third. And it just kept going and kept going and kept going. My last stop will be the supportive housing site that we're opening in February. And then that's it. Noah's Foundation is done. That's all we're going to do. But government contracts are very, Sharon might get me for saying this, they're actually quite easy to get. They're competitive, but they're easy to get. There's so many of them. And because people think government contracts are so competitive, they don't go after them. So for that, tap into the nonprofit plug, because I'm going to stay in my lane, but that is something that her and her team can do with getting you like on the bidding list, getting you on LASA's list. LASA does not pay a lot of money. So don't think just because they are the leading homeless services provider in LA County that you're going to get buku money for them. Go for those government contracts and do that stuff. And also, do you know how many rich people are in LA County? Get out of your neighborhood and out of your community and go find you some rich friends who have other rich friends who know some other rich people, because that's where it's at. You know how many people are like sitting on their wealth and they're like, I want to give this money away. I don't know what to do with it. I'm about to die. My kids are good. I can tell you that's where a bulk of my money came from. I actually have zero government funds, but I am going to start going after them and getting them. But all of my funding came from private donors who either saw what I was doing on Instagram, heard about it from somebody else, and was like, oh, I just want to give you this money. And they're all rich and wealthy, and they have it to give. So start there. Last questions. How do you get clients? Ooh, that's a consulting question. I'll be more than happy to chime in with you after, but it would still be the same thing: building community, getting in the community, asking questions, and networking with people. And yes, I do hire and train staff to work at my homes. And yes, it's always needed.
And I think what's really important to note, especially with those last couple of questions that Winner is asking, is that collaboration is key, working with the community. I don't think people, Brittany, and kind of maybe you can share your experience, like what you had to do to sometimes go out and find, and you're at the point now where you don't even have to find clients because everybody knows who you are, but like the fact that you have to partner like with shelters and other agencies. Talk to us a little bit about what your experience has been like creating partnerships, and the importance of collaboration is key.
Absolutely. The partnerships and collaboration is definitely key, but also know when you're in this field, you don't have to partner with everybody. I have agencies that are blacklisted. They know better than to call Noah's Foundation and say, can you take my client? Because during that partnership and collaboration, they did not help me. They did not look out for me. That they gave me, how do I say this? I consider Noah's Foundation still to be a small business, right? No matter how well we're doing, we're still a small business, which means when you look at Noah's Foundation and you look at Hopix, Shields for Families, 1736, First to Serve, right? You see that they have these large teams and they get way more money, and then they have different departments and mental health. And anybody know what a SPDAT is, where they have to do that assessment that gives you a score and it bases it on what services you get or how fast you get them. With that being said, I feel like often those agencies, and one in particular, used to always send me the clients they didn't really want to deal with, which usually by the time I would get them, they were batshit crazy. And I have no problem with that, because I know that with homelessness comes mental health, drug abuse, and just trauma, can you imagine living on the street? I don't know about anybody else, but I slept in my car for a long time. You will really lose your mind. So I empathize with those people. However, I am not medically equipped to provide them the service that they need. In fact, by taking them, and I don't have 24-hour staff, I don't do drug testing, I take children, I can't give you meals 24/7, and there's still other things that I'm trying to fill in. I am actually a disservice to them by accepting them into my program. Agencies like the Hot Picks and Shields for Families and those big ones, they have the money. They need to do that. The ones that I think smaller agencies like us or anyone who wants to start, we can only handle the ones who maybe we just need to bridge the gap and kind of like fill in a little bit. And the hardest part about getting on your feet and finding a job, getting money, budgeting, and locating an apartment is housing. I've covered the hardest part. You mean to tell me these other agencies can't help me with the rest? If I gave them a place to lay their head, everybody else needs to fall in line and help me with everything else.
Listen, winner with the PR. Winner, we're going to get to that so everyone has the ability to book a consultation with Bree, get more information, start transitional housing. So one thing that I want to ask you, Bree, is I really want to do the reality check with everybody, because as I've gotten to know you over the past several years, and as I've started to really get to learn transitional housing, and I actually come from the homelessness industry as part of my primary background in my professional life, specifically with veterans. So it's a little bit different, as that's like such a niche little community and population. Talk to us about when people come to you and I, and they want to get into transitional housing because of the lucrative aspect, and that's all they think about. Please reality check all of this. And I am recording you because I'm going to share this shit.
I totally forgot I was being recorded. I dropped a few F-bombs.
Oh, I drop the F-bomb all the time. You already hear me. The folks that come every week are used to it.
Oh, gotcha. I would say if you are coming into this field because you think it makes a lot of money, don't do it. Because you may make a lot of money, but you're going to pay for it. Like, I have literally had someone set my house on fire. That's not funny because I actually cried, but yeah, set my house on fire. I've had
How about the individuals that come and just, when I showed up to the one house the one day, that are just like,
squatters.
Squatters. Thank you.
Yeah, they're called squatters. I had just got a new house, and Sharon was actually kind enough to help me get some donations for it. So we were getting some beds and stuff delivered, and she was like walking and scouting the property to see what else we needed. And she calls me and she says, "Bree, I hear some people in the house." And I said, "No, you don't. The house is empty." She said, "No, there's people here and there are cars in the driveway." And I was like, "Sharon, you're crazy. You must be at the wrong house." So then she sends me a video. I was in the middle of getting my hair braided, and if you know, I was literally sitting in the salon getting my hair braided, and Sharon sent me this video, and it was a house full of people. I mean, dogs, kids, and they were squatting in the house. How they got in, I don't know. I got to Sharon in about 6 minutes with 2 braids in my head and a crazy looking ponytail, trying to figure out how these people got in here. And do you know, when LAPD was first called, they told me that there was nothing I can do about that and I had to evict them? I wasn't going to do that. I got those people out the house. So won't tell you how this call is being recorded, but they got out. So those are some of the things that you're going to deal with, like in the midst of you building homes and stuff. It's because everybody is in survival mode. So for me, I have admission and discharge criteria. I legally do not have to evict you because I have a program agreement, because I have rules, and I have these contracts and things that people have to sign when they come in. And some of the language I have in it is a 3-strike policy that Noah's Foundation has adopted. If I have to talk to you about parking on the driveway, or this new incident that I had is I have a person in my home who works as security, and he's an armed security guard. And I told him before I housed him, "You cannot bring your gun into this house. I don't mind if you have one. Hell, we probably all have one. You just can't have it here." Well, he didn't follow the rule. What he did was he had his gun in the house, and then he left the bullets on the bed or whatever he was doing. And I got a DCFS visit that day because we also work with DCFS, and they were placing a mom and her children. And she wasn't going to get her kids back until they inspected the home. You think that social worker left her children that day? Nope, she didn't get them because they found the gun on the bed and stuff. So not only did she not get her kids, but he got immediately terminated. When you terminate someone, they may tell you, "I'm not going nowhere. You got to put me out." How you handle that is how you see fit. But I have ways where I can get people out of the home and stuff. But those are some of the things that you do. And then to empathize with that person is like, if you're being asked to leave right away, the number one question is, where am I going to go? Where am I going to sleep? I don't have time to find a place. I can't afford that. How am I going to do it? And it's like, well, you should have thought about those things first. So you'll get it. Don't get into a power struggle with people. I've come a long way in my journey, and just being more mindful of how I speak to people, and that cliche that our grandparents or that our moms or anyone has told us in the past is not what you say, it's how you say it. That is a big thing in social services. Always remember that you too can be a client, and you want to speak to people with the same dignity and care that you want to be handled if you were the one receiving services. Because you don't know if that will be you. Again, we're all one paycheck away from homelessness. And then in Black families, it takes one crisis. Big mama dies, you're the breadwinner of the family, a family crisis, or your car breaks down. Anything can happen where you have to choose between your livelihood and paying rent, and you can't do both, and you will end up on the street. So just being mindful of like how you speak to people during that process. I usually just let clients play themselves. And then also cameras have really helped, because people will try to make you think you're crazy, and that never happened. And it's always like he say, she say. And with cameras, you can just pull that up. But also with that, if I can tell you guys, one thing, men give me problems, but they're a different kind of problems. Women are like the hardest to house. I had a full-blown fight in the house for cheese. They were arguing over cheese, y'all. Cheese, legit cheese. At 2:00 in the morning, I got a call that these girls were getting down over some cheese. And I had to stop what I was doing and drive all the way to the house. Glass was broken. Kitchen looked distraught. At 2:00 in the morning, I have to figure out where I'm going to place one young lady and then where to place the other, so that I can, how I can like figure out what to do in the morning, because my son had to go to school. So just know that when you're housing people, it comes with different upbringings. People are raised differently, different cultures, different ethnicities. Like there were times where I housed people and I'm like, why does this person never flush the toilet? Well, when that person broke down to me where they were from and how they lived and how they grew up, they're like, in my country, we don't flush the toilet. We conserve our water. So I would just put in there, and I'm like, okay, I didn't know that, but now that's something that I do know, and I have to be mindful of when I'm like housing people, or how I'm placing them, or some people who grow up and not have shoes in the house. Like you have to think about every single thing when you're housing people, and also know that everybody has a different type of cleanliness. I've had roaches and they stink, and I grew up with roaches, so it's triggering for me when I see them. And I tell my residents all the time, if y'all get roaches, y'all never going to see me. But just think about that. That's another expense. You have to pay for extermination. With that, I have a standard one set that fits all cleaning. Absolutely nothing out on the counters unless I bought it. So if you want a microwave or you want an air fryer, it has to be NOAA's Foundation approved. And when I purchase it, that is the only thing that's out. Not everybody can come in and just bring their own stuff and just have it out. We have a standard set for everything. You cannot let people do what they want to do in these homes. You have to have rules, and people aren't going to like it. People have told me before, this feels like jail. Well, you got a choice here. I tell people, yes, I have rules, and yes, they are very strict, but I don't have a gun to your head. You don't have to be here. You can absolutely leave and go find a transitional living program that works for you. But this is the way that I run this one, because I have so many people in here that I have to keep safe.
Bree, and one of our participants asked Evelyn, she's a founder of a nonprofit organization up in the Bay Area, and she works with a lot of formerly incarcerated females. So she's asking if how do halfway houses maybe fit into this
Halfway
scenario?
houses are usually court mandated. That's why they're called halfway houses, because you're halfway in prison and halfway into society. So that I really don't know, and I don't want to give you the wrong information, but I do know it has a lot to do with re-entry. I have gotten calls from prison before, where they're like, hey, can you take me? And they usually come with either a probation or parole officer, and the probation or parole officer will guide you on that process. But that's only happened to me 2 times. But with halfway houses, it is so specific. It kind of gives me vibes of like a sober living home. Mm-hmm. With the sober living home, it's usually like 4 beds in a room. you're like 2 bunk beds, and they have curfew. You have to provide meals like that. It's a different ball game, but it's the same thing as transitional housing. It's just for that specific population.
Okay, thank you. Evelyn, I kind of hope that sort of answered your question. So one thing I'm kind of wanting to understand, and a lot of people have asked us too, is besides like, we put your contact information into the chat box, and I'll have you kind of give it to everybody too on here, but what is like your number 1 and number 2 tip for somebody who wants to get into transitional housing, and how much money should they have ready, and it's probably a range, but how much money should they have ready so that they're ready to go, so that month 1 they are able to maybe pay for the property, the things in it, and like, can you give us a ballpark on that kind of idea?
Kind of. So if you are going to do like me and lease, you need about the 20,000. Because you're gonna need first month, last month, you're gonna need to buy. Oh, with my first house, I didn't go and like get the house and then buy all the furniture. I was making my money as I went and will buy beds as I needed them. And for me, I just didn't spend as much money that way because I honestly didn't have it. I'll figure it out. And then also depends on like what your support system is like. Like once I put that on Facebook, hey, you guys, I'm starting homeless services and I just went and got this. I had people pulling up with all type of stuff. But don't take everybody's donations. That's another story. So that's one way. And then the second way that I can say is, if you have a family member or a family friend or someone, or even like your own property that you're going to use to start, that's an easy way for you to start because you already have the property. I'm saying start. That doesn't mean that you have to keep it that way, but that's enough for you to start building program relationships, building community relationships, filling your house, making some money, and then taking that and then starting your next site. And then maybe when you start your next site, you close this one down so that you don't have to use your personal home anymore, but you've went somewhere else to lease. If you're going to do the leasing, it is within about the 20,000. If you're going to use like your own house, I don't think you're going to need more than like 5, probably less than that. It's just like a standard look you want it to look like with transitional housing. I have seen people like mount TVs and like put a lot of stuff in there. Keep in mind, when you put stuff like that in there and they break it, you're going to want to replace it. And that includes holes in the wall and stuff like that. So I have a worksheet that I'll probably send it to Dr. Sharon after. And it's literally a checklist. And you can put, this is who I want to serve, this is who I want to know. And I designed this thing where it like creates it for you so that you can think about how you want to set up your home. One of my colleagues allows residents to wash and dry for free. The hell if I would do that. You know how much a water bill is? No, ma'am. I have coin operated washer and dryers in all of my property. They are very reasonably priced because with the company that I use, you can set your own pricing for them. So I set mine at 75 cents. But to give it free, I'm not going to do that because that's not going to prepare you for the real world. Having a washer and dryer in your house where you can wash for free is a luxury item. Many of us do not have that. We pack our stuff and go to the laundry room, or if you live in an apartment, there's a laundry service there. But how many of us are really washing and drying for free? So think about that stuff.
Awesome. Okay. So can you kind of go over how can people get in touch with you, the types of services you offer outside of, actually being a homeless services provider, but as far as people wanting to get into being transitional provider and what they need to do to contact you. And then I'll open it up for general questions from the group. And I'm sure Winner has more questions that he's going to ask on behalf of everybody.
Winner has my number. So the nerve to be in this group with all these questions, yeah, but I do consult. What I have learned through consulting, and this is me being very honest and very transparent, is I mentally do not have the capacity to consult or offer training or classes to individuals who are like new to the nonprofit world, because the language of what I'm teaching you is very, very, very different. Dr. Sharon and her team can do that. So if you have questions about like grants and tax exempt and how do I do this, how that, you need to start with Dr. Sharon first. I would say before you get to me, you need to be Dr. Sharon certified. That way it's a warm handoff. Dr. Sharon has vetted you and I can say, boom, this person has They're 501c3. They've registered their business. They've done X, Y, and Z. Now you are literally just looking for a property and you're ready to take off. That's when I can come and fill in. But if you are still a dreamer and you're still thinking, hey, I'm here rooting for you, but I'm not the person that can help you. I actually think I would be a disservice to you if I had to like sit down with you and go through all of those steps. But Dr. Sharon and her team 100% can take care of you. But when you're ready to be like, okay, I have some funds set up, I'm ready to get in the housing. I do consult. I do offer consulting packages for that. And the newest request that I've recently gotten from one of my clients is, can I shadow you for a day? She's like, I'll pay you. Like, can that be part of my consulting hours? And I was like, I've never thought about that. So literally she was just a fly on the wall and came to one of the transitional homes and watched me interact with clients, how the home was set up. I allowed her to take pictures and stuff, and that's fine for me too. But I will only do that to people that Dr. Sharon has vetted. And it's also a safety thing too, by letting you in like that kind of space with our families and respecting their privacy. And I will put this here. It is the consulting email.
Yeah, Brittany, please drop all the contact information, best ways to get you in the chat for us.
I will leave my number, but please note, if you text me or call me, this number is not for anybody that needs housing. If you know someone who needs housing, don't you give them this number. They will be highly disappointed. But they can take this one. And just so you know, I probably will screenshot it and say, hey, Dr. Sharon, do you know this person? And if she doesn't give thumbs up or thumbs down, I'm not gonna
So if it's winter, I'm going to say, no, I don't know him. Should we turn his video on because I want to see his face?
Yes,
Candace, you can
Candace,
totally
you
get
should.
Dr. Sharon
Absolutely.
certified.
And you know, the good thing about that with Dr. Sharon is once you meet with Dr. Sharon and her team, because right now you're excited and you hear about transitional housing, but once you meet with Dr. Sharon and her team, you might not want to do transitional housing. You might want to just do youth services and community services or supportive services, and that's okay too. So then that saved you a stop from spending unnecessary money with me.
Okay, so what I want to do now is we have like 5 minutes left. Brittany, like that was a killer overview and like transitional housing 101 in less than an hour. It is
That was
by
my
no
first time
means-
doing that.
It was perfect. And it was by no means like a comprehensive overview, but good enough for people to get an idea and kind of understand what the industry really is. I want to open it up to general questions for the group. I'm going to, our Wednesday lunch and learn ends. But before I do that, while I've got everyone on here, every week, 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern, Chamber Nation Lunch and Learn right here on Zoom. Those of you that are on here, it's recorded. We'll send out a recording from today for anyone that wants to review it. We'll also send out all of our future dates and topics. We're more than likely going to have a transitional housing and ending homelessness topic, probably at least once a month, maybe every other month. It's such a massive topic and we want more people in the industry providing these services. But let me open it for any just general questions from the group before I kick everybody out for the rest of the day. Anybody got any questions? And Bree, anything else that you feel is important to share with the group too?
Well, if no one's asking questions, I would say the easiest way, if you are interested, is if you are already involved in homeless services. See, I had a hand up because I was a case manager for a very well-known homeless services provider. So if you are in that space where you already work in homeless services, you already have a huge, huge, huge advantage. You have access to their funders, their team, their contacts. You better start going through those databases at work and being nosy and seeing what type of access you have.
Yeah. We do have 2 questions. Evelyn, go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you. Maybe I missed this, but I have a nonprofit that serves the reentry. I also have maybe access to some properties, and so I'm just trying to figure out the math behind it.
She's Dr. Sharon certified. Okay, sorry, Evelyn, go ahead.
Thank you. And so because I already have direct access to a population who's looking for housing, and I have an investor with some property, my question is, who is paying the rent? Like, where does that exchange flow?
Okay. That's up to you. I have some residents who pay out of pocket, but because you're working with reentry, I imagine that these are individuals who probably can't get jobs because of their background. So they're probably not working. So they should be connected to some type of programming already, or you're going to eat the cost. In some cases, I eat the cost. It depends on the person. That's why I vet people before they come into my program. Just because if I sit down and I talk to you and I kind of interview you, you know, because I don't get government funds, I do not have to follow the housing first approach. And we all know what that means. The housing first approach means you get government funds and you have to take whoever the hell comes to you because you're getting their money. I don't have to do that. I can vet my own people. So with that being said, before I invest in you, right, because it is an investment, before I invest in you, I want to sit down and talk to you about your life, your goals. I want you to explain to me like why my program is going to be a good fit for you so that I can decide if I want to subsidize your rent or not. If I choose to subsidize it, I may say, I'm going to give you 2 months free. That means for 2 months, I'm going to eat the cost of this person staying here. Ideally, I didn't start this to make money. I genuinely did it to help people. And I have just figured out a way to put myself on a salary. So if you're okay with doing that, you should be fine. But for 2 months, I'll let a person stay free. And then after 2 months, I'm like, okay, you have to pay $200. Okay, after that many months, you have to pay $400. And then that's one way. The second way I would say is, let's say Hopix calls you and says, hey, I have a client and they're reentry, and then you take them. Hopix is most likely covering the moving costs and all those things. And you want to have something in writing, which is called like a promissory note or a promise to pay of how many months that they're covering, and having realistic conversations with the client. Like, okay, they're covering you for 6 months. That means from now into 6 months, you have to figure out what you're going to do to cover your stay here. And there are so many jobs and programs that are used to hire felons and people who have backgrounds, expungement fairs, all types of stuff.
Thanks
Thank
for
you so much.
I know. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Evelyn, did you have more?
No, just saying thank you. That was super valuable. Thank you.
No
Bree, if
problem.
Evelyn reaches out to you, do everything you can to help her. I love that woman.
Oh, and if I didn't note, I am not a phone person. Text me. But if you text me and say, hey, can I call you? We can definitely schedule a call. But if you call me, I'm probably not going to answer.
I've got time for one more question, and Candace has a question. Candace, go ahead and ask.
Okay, hi everybody, how are you?
Ooh.
Can you see me?
Yep, we sure can.
Sorry, my camera for Zoom got jacked up. I have no idea what happened, but I started a nonprofit for women with children here in Lancaster, and I know you said I have to be 501c3, which I'm all of that. I'm just trying to figure out what I need to do to get an appointment with you, and get help with get funding, and then if I can immediately go over to you, Brittany, because I need help finding housing. It's a whole big mess because here in the AV it's like a whole clique, and you have to try to get through the clique to get anything. So
I'm more than happy to help with that. One of the other reasons also I was saying go through Dr. Sharon is because in the past I met with someone who they had their 501c3, they registered their business and all of that. But guess what? Their certificate of good standing was no good. So all the information that I had given them did not help. They could not get grants. They could not get funding. They didn't register. What is it called, Sharon? The general.
If you're in California with the attorney general,
attorney list Sharon has.
Charities, yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's just all this checklist of stuff, right? And Sharon still does mine, even still to this day. She does I was almost not a nonprofit, y'all, and that's me telling y'all secrets. So go through Sharon first and make sure you've completed all that checklist first. Otherwise, I can get information that you probably can't do anything with. There you go. That's what it's called. Attorney General Charitable Trust Register.
Yeah.
I didn't have that, and I had a very big donor that wanted to give me money, and guess what? Never got it because I wasn't on that list.
So one of the first things that we do as a firm, Candace, so you can reach out to us. You can either go to our website, nonprofitplug.com, www.thenonprofitplug.com, or you can shoot us an email, info@thenonprofitplug.com. That's going to be one of your best ways. And what we do with every single individual that we potentially work with is I will do a complimentary compliance audit of your organization. The reason I do that is
Okay.
because I'm not going to work with someone anyway, so I always do a compliance audit to make sure you're in compliance, and then we put together a plan to get you back into good standing if you're not, but we always do that check. So reach out to us, and then that way you're prepared and you're ready when we shoot you over to the BRE level and you want to go next level with your nonprofit and services. And God, you were so accurate about AV. We have a couple of clients and nonprofits we work with out in the AV area, and collaboration is definitely a different beast out that way.
Yep.
So we would love to work with you and see if we can. So just go on our website or shoot us a DM or an email, and we'll do what we can to help you out. I'll put the email address in the chat box again for everybody.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us too. I want to thank everyone so much for joining us today. That is it for Chamber Nation for the Lunch and Learn for today. Join us next week, Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. I hope everyone has an awesome week. Brittany, thank you. Thank you for blessing all of us with that amazing information. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. See you guys
All right,
soon.
everybody, take care. Have a fantastic week.